Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese in France, Mickey? What? Boy, ale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah, I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice up my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, and welcome to Superhero Speak. I'm your host, Dave.
Oh, I messed it up. Damn. I'm John.
And I'm Chris.
Yes, boys and girls, JD is not with us this week, but we have a new member of the team. And if anyone has noticed, Chris has been putting comic book reviews up on the website. Actually, he put one up today that I have yet to go and edit and publish, but I will get to that after this. So
that's right. I took Don's job, and then now I've kicked JD off the podcast. So I guess O'Grady, I'm coming for you next.
I'm next. Yes.
No, don't give him what he wants. So, since you're new, Chris,
oh boy,
why don't you just tell listeners just a little bit about you, your background, and why you love comics, and plug your book as well.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's the tough part. I'm from the Midwest. I was raised Catholic many years ago, so talking about myself and bragging is really hard
out
for
of
me.
You at a young age.
Yes, exactly.
I was raised Catholic too, so I get
that's all. That's all going to be difficult.
I'm recovering Catholic.
That's how I phrase it as well. Let's see. I live in Indiana with my wife and our cats, who will probably show up at some point. I don't know. I love comics. I've worked in comics retail for a long time. Boy, I don't know. That's about it. I've clearly, as you guys can see from the library, I've been collecting them a long time. I don't remember my first comic. A lot of people have that story. They remember their first issue or their first something. I don't know. Too far back for me.
My first comic was a Flash comic that I was way too young to get and I destroyed, but I do remember the cover, which is
nice.
A basic Flash cover. It was like a target sign with the Flash running real fast through it, which is about 80% of his covers.
Have you relocated it since? Are you into that grips of nostalgia where you've rebought it? And
I actually did recently rebuy it. I forgot to mention that on the show. We were at a flea market, and the guy was selling comics, had a $1 box I was going through, and I found the issue, and I'm like, no way.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Hey, my first memory is just the cave wall. So, the stick figures in the cave walls. So.
There you go.
It's I don't remember what it was about. I think there was some elk on there or something, but
lots of legs.
Yeah.
So besides writing comics reviews for the website, you also have a book out.
Yes, I'm a novelist. I have a book out. I'm going to show you guys, even though this is a podcast, but I've got one handy.
We do that all the time.
I'm very excited about it. It's called Night Brings Night. You can find it on, I don't know, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, any reputable bookseller.
Is it like a mystery, a horror?
Oh man, this is tough. No, it's slightly dystopian.
Okay.
A lot of crime in there. Ooh, I should read the back to you. No,
there you go.
No, that's boring. The premise is pretty much, it takes place in a world where no one survives childbirth anymore. The children do, but not the women. And so, but it's not about that. It's just about people living in that world. So what would that look like to be a school teacher?
Jeez.
In that. So it's just kind of it's a mosaic novel. So each chapter is from a different perspective from a different character. What is it like to be a police officer? You just heard my cat sneeze. What's it like
wow.
to be a police officer in a world like that? What's it like to, just anything?
Right.
Have a little brother that grew up that way when you're a little older and you didn't grow up that way. And so I don't know. So yeah. it sounds heavy, but it's pretty weird, and I don't know, a lot of humor in it. It's kind of all over the place, but I like it.
Kind of depressing too, because that's a zero-sum game. Like that's a dead world.
Yes. Yeah. So it doesn't go too far into it. It starts like we'll say 6 years after, and then it progresses to about 16 years after that, and just kind of keeps going along. I don't know.
Interesting. Maybe it'll be turned into a graphic novel or a movie one day.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
It'll be the next Handmaid's Tale.
I do love Margaret Atwood.
My girlfriend just brought that up today, saying it was like, or no, last night, saying not the TV series, the original movie from I think it was 95.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like that's one of my favorite movies. It made me go out and buy the book and read it. So now she's like on a quest to. I've never seen it or read it, so she's on a quest to get me to watch the movie with her. So that's
watch the movie, not the TV. Well, I don't know. People do love the TV show, and it's got a lot of like great acting in it. But there's a tendency in our culture to make
the first season covers the actual book, and then the rest is just they're making it up. Yeah,
yeah. There's a tendency to make 5 years of a TV show out of a 2-hour movie. This is what it used to be. But I guess it depends on your preference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And how about you, John? How are you? What is new in your world?
Nothing really.
Nothing.
No, I've been completely boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you still shut off all your emotions to the female world?
Shut them off. Oh no. No, I killed them.
Okay.
I killed them so I never have to feel anything again.
How about your Minecrafting? Any updates on that?
No, I haven't been. My nephew had to finish up cross country. Now that he's finished, he'll start working on it again. So yeah, nothing to report there either. A lot of stuff at work, but I'm not going to bore anybody listening to this.
Boring.
Exactly. That's what happens when they try to make you a manager and you're like, no. So
wait, there's some more money or just more responsibility?
Oh no, just the responsibility.
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah. We'll see in February if they're going to acknowledge the fact that I've been doing this for 6 months now, but I don't know.
I can always tell the kind of week you've had by your drink choice.
Oh.
And it's not a bottle of water. I can see that it's bourbon.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Good choice.
Double oaked.
I have pumpkin porter.
Ooh,
I just have water today.
Aquafina. A very respectable.
I'm so glad you said such a Pennsylvania, Philadelphia word there. It made my day. If I could get you guys to say Mario later, that'll be great.
Mario?
Ticked off all my boxes. Super Mario Brothers, or however the hell you say it.
I'm originally from Connecticut, so like I'm gonna have and I've lived in Houston, Texas, so I may have
all over
weird
the
ticks
map.
from all over.
If no one has figured this out too, one of my favorite things about John, he's always one of my favorite people on the planet. I say this sincerely. He reads a lot, and he learned a lot of words from reading them before he heard them pronounced. He has a lot of unique pronunciations of words. We'll leave it at that.
Well,
I'll be right there with you. Yeah.
That's what happens when your only outlet from a crappy childhood is reading, and your parents won't either don't know the words or won't answer you. So, you have to figure it out yourself, and sometimes you're wrong. And
and yet you keep going.
Well, when you have a sesquipedalian vocabulary, that's you have to learn things on the fly. And sometimes,
wait, are we getting paid by the word for this? Like
no,
by the syllable.
Okay. By the syllable.
By the syllable. Use lots of $5 words.
No, but John needs a job where he gets paid by the syllable.
Well, don't go into writing novels.
No. And it's funny because like decades ago, some jobs you got paid by the lines of code that you wrote. John and I are both coders.
Oh God, that was a while ago. Yeah.
That was decades ago. They don't do that anymore. But
Arthur Conan Doyle was paid by the word. A lot of old writers were paid by the word.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially when they were writing serials. So
cereal.
Did he write Captain Crunch or Fruit Loops?
That was a groaner. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm good at the dad jokes. That's what my girlfriend tells me all the time.
Fantastic.
So let's see. How was my
Dave,
week?
how are you doing?
There you go.
Dave,
See, JD's not here. He's normally the one that remembers to ask me. I've known John for 11 years now.
I just let you go. I mean, normally you just take on the lead anyway.
I'm doing good. It was a okay week. My girlfriend has twins, and they turned 18 yesterday, which is why we're recording a day late, because we went out to celebrate. And had some fun. We went to the mall. I haven't been in a mall in a while, and
they still exist.
Well, not like they used to. Like half the stores are empty in most of the malls, I think, anymore.
There's a library in the mall here.
most of the malls I know, most of the malls that I know, a lot of the storefronts have become all medical areas. You know,
yeah,
like they do a lot of outpatient stuff there.
I only bring it up because they had this thing I never saw before. It's a photo booth, right? But what they do is they take your picture, and it's a Marvel photo booth, and they'll put you on a Marvel cover, and they take your picture and make you look like a drawing, and they print it out. But it's uber expensive.
Of course it is.
Like how expensive?
But her one son, it was like, I think it was like $5 to take the picture, and then $10 to print it out.
Whoa! What's the point of taking a picture if you don't print it out, though?
Exactly. Yeah, because there wasn't an option to email it. Because I would have been like, oh, just email it and I'll print it out at home. But no. But her one son wanted to do it. And I was like, oh, fine. And I paid for it. And he was like, oh, we'll both do it. I'm like, okay. So we get in there. But the camera would only let you do one person at a time. I guess if you were smaller, like a kid, you could probably fit two. But like two adult-sized males couldn't really do it together.
Yeah, they want your $10. They don't want $5 for
that. So he did it. And then printed out his picture, and then my girlfriend swiped her card and said, okay, come on, now you do one. So, but I don't have it with me to show you guys because she kept it. She said, I'm going to put it in a frame for you. So
what cover
translation?
Did you get?
She's going to use it against you later on.
It's Spider-Man, and it's so funny because he's behind me, swinging behind me, shooting his web. It looks like he's going after me in the picture. So. Yeah, but that's, that was my week, other than seeing a movie that we'll be talking about a little later. No spoilers yet. And getting a lot of depressing news this week.
Right?
Yeah. So
I heard about one that, I don't know, maybe you guys talked about it a few weeks ago, but Kevin O'Neill died too, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes, I saw that. I don't think
martial law. I think that was like November 3rd or something, but it slipped right past me.
I didn't know that till you just said that.
I know. It sucks, man.
They covered it in ARS Technica at one point, I think.
Okay.
And I keep track of them. But yeah, I caught wind of that too. Yeah, it was in one of those feeds in Facebook too. So yeah, we lost that one too.
All right. Well, before we get to the news, we're not doing social media madness this week.
Aw. I was looking forward. Everybody always hates it. I was looking forwed to it.
No, it's going to be sad enough without that.
Well,
I guess that's true.
Actually, I was kind of busy at work too, so I didn't do a lot of social media this week, so there wasn't a lot of responses to pick from. But for next week, if you want to be a part of social media madness, here's a good friend D Square to tell you more.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of social media madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for #GWAllStars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thanks for that, Don. And don't forget to check out the Omega Level Nerds podcast. Available on YouTube still, and wherever you get your podcasts. And he'll be back on this show again soon. Keep your ears out for him.
Unless I have him tied up somewhere.
On that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
these messages. We'll be right back.
All right, guys. So the first one, these aren't in order of how they passed away. They're in order of, I think, importance to us on this podcast. But of course, I had to pick the first one. I grew up loving this comedian. I think if you grew up in the 80s, you knew who Gallagher was.
You grew up in the was it? Well,
he started in late 70s, but was real big in the
90s.
Yeah.
And he's been
His
a
first-
meme through the
First
thousands.
special was 1980, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Gallagher passed away at the age of 78, was it?
Yeah, 76.
76. Yeah, I'll never forget, like, because, like you said, John, he's a big meme, right? Like, he's known as the watermelon smashing guy. And I'd seen clips of him and seen stuff like him doing the Sledge-O-Matic and all that. But then, like, I actually watched his special, and I'm like, oh, he actually is a comedian, too. It's not just a gimmick.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he has a lot to say.
Yeah. I mean, and he's been memed to death by The Simpsons, by Family Guy, by like every single, and that's what keeps it alive. I think they even, had him on Futurama too. Like, he's gonna be. It's gonna be a while before you stop really hearing his name. He was pretty up there, not quite George Carlin level, but like you said, he did have a very good routine and he did have a lot to say, and it was a lot of social commentary too.
Yeah.
It's just
now that
people go there.
Now that he's dead, is his brother gonna, because he had that whole thing with his brother in like the 90s. Do you guys remember that? He has like a brother who kind of looks like him.
Okay.
Who went out on the road as like Gallagher too, but he kind of promoted it as if he was Gallagher. And there was this like whole lawsuit, and he was like forbidden from like looking like, I don't know. There's all kinds of like, yeah, it was like some big like court case, and it was like a huge
That's
thing.
Weird,
right?
I guess I don't know. I mean,
I'm glad I only have sisters.
That is strange, but you know what? Also, I was thinking about it because I watch a lot of comedy specials on Netflix and all that jazz. Like, obviously, the Sledge-O-Matic was a gimmick, but like, and I think the last big prop comic besides him was Carrot Top. And if you've seen Carrot Top lately, I don't know what happened to him, but he decided to get a gym membership.
Yeah, don't make fun of Carrot Top anymore.
Like, do you think like a comedian could come out like that today? Crazy, doing stuff like that, smashing fruit or whatever. And
well, you could, but there was some controversy with some of the things he said too. I mean,
yeah, he definitely got into trouble. I'm thinking of the Mark Maron interview from like 2011. He walked out on.
Yeah, he walked out on it.
Is
right.
that what it was? Yeah, because he had a lot of homophobic and racist stuff in his act, and it wasn't uncommon probably at the time when it came out. But instead of bowing out of it gracefully, you know what I mean, like apologizing for it or just being like, oh, that was a different time. He kind of like doubled down on it, like, I should be allowed to tell those jokes. It's like, I don't know, dude. Everybody's telling you you're not. So
I missed that interview. I'll have to.
He reposted it on WTF. He does that whenever somebody dies. And so, yeah, it's up right now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, you're right. Like, he definitely was a product of his time. And I'm not talking about that kind of humor. I just meant the gimmicks. I don't think there's been a comic with a gimmick in a long time.
I think you could start that way, but you have to like move past it.
Yes.
Like, Jim Carrey started as like an impressions guy.
That's true.
And then he was like, I'm done. And then he struggled for like a few years, and everyone's like, what is this? Why is he crawling around on the ground like a bug? And then finally, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Did you see that Jim Carrey? It's not even an interview. He showed up unexpected at like some kind of event, and there's a reporter there, like E! News or something, and they're like, "Oh, Jim Carrey, can we get a quote from you?" And he's like, "Who's Jim Carrey?"
Yes.
He's like, "No one's Jim Carrey. No, who's anyone?" There's like weird
got all,
philosophical
like, Zen on them.
Yeah, it's
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
all I will say, like, one comic who can still like use a gimmick and stuff, Jeff Dunham.
Yeah, but you know what?
He's a very successful comedian. I would
Chris
say that.
Chris makes a very good point though, because once you see one of his specials, you've seen his act, and you don't need to see it again.
Well, he's that's why he continually makes new dummies, right?
Yeah,
but he's very funny. Like,
I mean, I bet
he branched out.
I meant the dead terrorist. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean that got done to death, right?
right,
But it was
exactly.
popular for a long time. So, but he's been doing a lot of other stuff. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so
it's
he's
hard
probably
to
the,
continually make.
but he's the
fresh stuff.
last big comic I could think of that has a gimmick. Then you're right, because he came out after those guys.
I mean, Jeff Foxworthy with "You Might Be a Redneck," or I don't know. There's a bunch of
That's more like a catchphrase.
Yeah, but that's
I
another
feel
one, like-
that's a little easier to
Yeah,
get past, maybe.
yeah, and also like he doesn't still do that. Like that kind of died
Right.
after, like he did that for like 5 years and then changed his act up, and then he hosted a game show with fifth graders. So
That's the dream, right? That's who everybody wants to work with. A bunch of like kids you don't know.
I thought they said the two things in Hollywood is don't work with animals or kids.
Of course, I know. Terrible idea.
All right, and then moving on, more sad news. Legendary artist Carlos Pacheco. Wait a minute, I'm saying this wrong. Pacheco. Yes, sorry.
I'm guessing, but
known for Avengers and X-Men comics. I'm sure Don knows all about this guy because he did X-Men for a long time. He passed away suddenly last week as well.
Yeah, he was
Pachenko.
like
That's
60.
It's Pachenko. That's it.
Yeah, Pachenko.
Yeah, but he had walked away. So I do follow him on social media, and he's posted a sketch and said, "This is my last sketch," and said he was walking away from it for a while to deal with some health issues. Something, I don't know, like they didn't say he had a stroke, but something happened where like his left side was paralyzed, and then he passed away. So
that sounds like a stroke. I mean,
yeah, but it's been like a year that he was dealing with these health issues, and then he passed away. So just another great artist gone. So
yeah, it's a shame. He's definitely like one of the superhero artists of like my childhood.
Yeah,
like all over the Avengers, X-Men. He did some like Justice League stuff too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Don has talked about him because for his X-Men stuff before. So yeah.
Control too, and
yes, he was working on Damage Control, I think, when he passed away, or the last thing he was working on for Marvel was some new Damage Control stuff. So
I like his art.
Yes. Well, of course, he was around for a long time. Obviously, he was good.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, you don't have to stop drawing comics at 60. There's plenty of guys out there still doing it, so it's a shame.
I know plenty of artists way older than that are still working.
Of course.
Well, Godspeed, Carlos. But of course, the big one that I know hit all of us hard, like a ton of bricks.
This one's rough.
I mean, this is the voice you hear when you read a Batman comic book is Kevin Conroy.
The voice you want to hear whenever they announce the new Batman, and you hear him say, "I'm Batman" for the first time. You want it to be Conroy.
Yes. Yeah. Apparently, he was sick for a while. Like, was quiet about it. It was cancer. So, and which I mean, I don't blame him. That's personally don't want to share it with fans or whatever.
Well, they rarely do.
But I mean, luckily, I'd said this on social media. He was actually on our show twice. Which I'll always be thankful for.
And we've met him a few more times besides that, haven't we?
Yes, but we interviewed him. Well, once was for a press room for a Batman movie, so he was part of that. But then the one time was at a show in Philly. We got to the two of us just sat and talked with him for about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
He told us that story about, and he's told it to other people too, the story about college with Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, yep. Yeah, and it was...
Oh, yeah, Juilliard at the same time as...
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think Robin Williams had been gone that long when we interviewed him, too.
No. And for those that don't know, voice of Batman, first aired Batman the Animated Series
30 years ago.
September 5th, 1992, which I remember specifically because I stayed up to watch that very first episode. And
yeah, because it was prime time when it was first launched.
It was Fox Kids. And it was but 8:00 at night. It was on the same time as Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yep.
And you can see in the first couple of episodes where he's getting his feel for what Batman sounds like, where his voice starts to really differentiate between Batman and Bruce Wayne. And halfway through that season, he'd already gotten it down. And it just, and after that, literally 30 years of him doing movies and video games and just like the entire Bruce Timm run of Justice League Unlimited. Was it the Zeta Files, Batman Beyond, Superman Adventures of Superman, and there was more in there.
And don't forget, he got to play him live action on Batwoman.
I think that's the last CW show I watched, was just that particular episode.
Yes, that run.
Just because I just wanted to see him do that.
I concur that it was Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I watched that one as well because of him. And I think that might have been the last time I watched any of the shows.
Yeah, it's also good to point out too, like he played Batman and all those different things, and he played him differently too. Like he's old and like more jaded in Batman Beyond, and he's more paranoid and isolated in like the Justice League Unlimited stuff that they were doing. And so just so much like nuance to his vocal performance.
Well, he gave Batman a depth that you just don't get in the movies these days, right? Like,
yes,
I mean, not just the loner, not just the dark brooding, but like a real nuance in like that's with the episode with Ace. I think it was called End of Days or something.
Epilogue.
But like when he just sat down next to Ace, the little girl who had recreated the
you posted that on your social media.
I did, and just him talking to her as she's dying, and the compassion in his voice when he's doing. It's like Kristen. It's like you said. It's like just a length and breadth of delivery that just I don't know how anybody will ever top that.
I saw the humanity he had too, because we could complain about the portrayal of Batman and the way they handle him now, but he was definitely like the last person to put that like humanity into it. Like he's not completely gone. He's not like a psychopath. He's still like a superhero.
Yeah.
Two quotes
exactly.
Two quotes I love that I've heard from him. The first one was, years after the show has been on, someone had asked him, "Oh, well, did you look at any other people who portrayed Batman to help guide your performance?" And he was like, no, like he read the script. He loved the tortured character that was Batman, and he created his own version of him. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Like that's the way you do it. I think the other thing is that I always loved too was, oh shoot, the thought went out of my head. The other quote went out of my head. That'll come to me. It'll come to me 10 minutes after we're done recording.
Talking about him finding his Batman voice.
Oh, that's the thing. Batman is his voice. And he said when he does Bruce Wayne, he goes up a little bit.
Right. Yep.
So,
which makes perfect sense because we all know as comic book people, Bruce Wayne is the mask. Batman is who he really is.
Yes. Right. Yes. And that's how he always approached the character. Yeah. And I love that. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. You're not putting on a vocal distortion tool around your throat.
You're not. You're getting all grovelly.
And if you want to hear some of his best stuff, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, which
still the best Batman movie ever made.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Gypped out of getting awards. Like it should have gotten real, awards, especially for like score and everything, because it was unbelievable. I think a very underrated title is Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
That is where they basically gave Mr. Freeze a tragic backstory that really works and makes you feel for one of these, they're like, this is one of the rogues gallery characters that nobody really ever cared about much before until Bruce Timm did that. And of course, as voice of Batman, it was just, I don't know anybody else that could have done it and given it the depth that it needed for that kind of a story.
I think we talked about it on the show when we did our retro review of Batman Forever. No, which is the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh,
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin.
I've never seen it.
Review. And it was like they took pieces of Heart of Ice for that version of Mr. Freeze, but got it so wrong on every level.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
And Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker was also
that's a good. That might be my second favorite after Mask of the Phantasm.
And then
that one's really good.
And then there's so many others sprinkled throughout the whole run of Batman the Animated Series and the follow-ups to it, like Feet of Clay with
that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like just
Ron Perlman as Clayface. Come on.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Like
I think
go ahead.
It's interesting too. Is I do think the animated series is one of those where they started taking villains and making them sympathetic. I don't really feel that existed as much until that show existed and became as popular as it was.
Yeah, it was right on the cusp of a renaissance in TV and media. You know, we're coming out of basically the innocence of the 70s and 80s and all the what do you call those people that butcher your movie or TV show because it's got too many, the censors, right?
The censors,
up until that point, the censors held sway. You know, like they butchered any anime that ever made it to America. Like,
I mean, they fought so they could have real guns in that show.
Right.
Because like it has to be like a real show. Like
any kind of violence they had to push for.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, there were three things that made that show what it is, and it was the storytelling, the writing, it was the look of it, because it didn't look like anything else had for years.
Right.
And then the cast, the voice cast, just the amazing, first and foremost, Conroy.
Yeah. I mean, not to short the rest of the cast too.
No, everybody was great.
So yeah.
So
wow, this and what ticks me off right now is that if you go on Facebook, if you've got the kind of profile that I have, it seems like a lot of people are just creating websites to get picked up by the Facebook algorithm to get clicks from people who are very sad about, and that's how you can tell that this was way bigger than a lot that's happened lately, is because almost half my Facebook feed is fake sites creating fake articles about Kevin Conroy passing away so they can get a lot of the clicks. Yeah, I know. No, I mean, I'm getting used to just saying never show this one again, never show this one again. But it's like they're popping up. And I've never seen that with any of the other passings of any of the, any of these other people we've covered in this area. It's like I've never seen that much of there's so much of a response that people would take, that scammers would take the time to do that.
It's weird. There's nobody my age who doesn't know his voice, even if they don't know who he is. But my parents would have no idea who it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is still, it's so big and it's so niche at the same time. I don't know. It's an odd thing.
I was gonna say,
also, go ahead.
My son knows his voice because he plays the games. Not from the show. Yeah.
But I think, I don't think, like, even if you weren't a comic book fan, anytime you've seen any animated Batman thing for the last 30 years, 99.9% of the time, it was Kevin Conroy. So even people who aren't into this genre, this side of the geekdom, they probably have that voice in their head, because it's like oh shoot, what's her face, the one who played Batgirl,
Tara Strong, right?
Tara Strong just put out a very nice obituary for him.
Yeah, that was very sweet.
But she said, like, it was just the perfect person at the perfect time with the perfect voice for that character. Like, it's just one of those things, like, it's one of those things where you hear it, like, even just once and oh yeah, that's Batman,
Yeah, Mark Hamill, I can't remember his entire post, but basically said that he wouldn't want us to be sad. He would just want us to celebrate what he left behind.
And that's the other thing. I don't know. I mean, and we've been on the circuit for how long now, Dave? Like, I mean,
10 years in May.
And you've been out in the conventions way longer than I have. I have never heard one story, not even a peep, not even a whisper of anything bad regarding him. Everybody I've ever met that's ever had any dealings with him whatsoever has been, that is one of the nicest men we've ever met.
Yes.
Bar none.
Yeah, definitely.
That leads me to, and I know it's not recommendation time, but he wrote a comic book or a comic story for DC Pride for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And DC put it up for free after he died. So that's available for anyone to read.
That's right. Not many people realize that he was
It's called Yeah, it's called Finding Batman. It's very personal. It's a great story. It's hard. I mean, because it's all about him struggling to make it as an actor, as a gay actor, until he gets that role. And they're like, "Do you think you can find this voice in you?" And he's like, "Yes, it's already in me." So I don't know. It's a great story.
And we geeks, we don't care if you're gay or not. You're giving us a character like that, we love you. That's it. Who cares about anything else? So
yeah,
it's, I don't know, if when I die, people talk about me like they talk about Kevin Conroy, I will consider my life successful.
I have so much to say for when you die that I can't say now.
Yeah.
And you don't want to hear any of it.
All right. Well, I'll pull Mark Maron, and I'm going to include our interview with him at the end of this episode. So stick around for that when we're done.
Cool.
But something else died this week, guys. Apparently, Margot Robbie's Pirates of the Caribbean movie is dead.
Did we remember this was a thing?
That was the whole thing. The article came up, and I was like, "Oh, that's right." And that was like a couple years ago. They said that it was after the whole initial thing happened with Johnny Depp, and Disney dropped him, and they were like, "Okay, we're done with him." And then like 6 months later, it's like, "We're going to make a new movie, but this one stars Margot Robbie." And it was like, "Oh, okay."
And everybody, and much to the chagrin of like the public, it's like, yeah. It's like,
exactly. I think
anybody cares.
I kind of think that's why they've dropped it. Like, okay, we already had 5 Pirates movies. Do we even need another one?
And how do you do it without Captain Jack Sparrow?
Right. I mean, that's he's the focal point for all the stories. Yeah.
Well, all except the last, right?
I don't know. I think I've only seen the first one. I really liked it. I just never watched another one. I don't know.
They start. I mean, it's kind of like the Transformers movies, except they start a lot better, but they have the same bell curve.
Okay.
Or not bell curve, just a dropping curve.
Yeah, I do think like they kind of after the third one, I think they kind of ran out of ideas.
Yeah, they just basically said, you know what, this thing called a plot, we don't need that.
It's always weird when they push it past a trilogy, right? And you're like, oh, you're just going to do this forever, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Or they come back after years and basically just reboot the original movie with slight differences.
Yeah.
Like Matrix. Reload it.
Trying not to visibly shudder right now.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is no one cares that this movie isn't going to be made.
I didn't.
Honestly, I forgot. Yeah, I don't even remember it. I like her. She's a great actress, and the franchise is fun, I guess. Like I said, I think I've only seen the first one. Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget. It's the second movie. There's the Kraken in it, and it's like it gets released and it pulls the Black Pearl down into the ocean with Jack Sparrow on it. That's the end of the movie. But like when we went to the theater, my son was little then, and it's like right before the climax of the movie. And he's like, I gotta pee. And I'm like looking at my watch and I'm like, there isn't much time left. Can you hold it? And he's like, no. And he's like, started getting really upset. I'm like, so I take him to the bathroom. We come back in and it's like, that's it. That's like the ship's being pulled down and then credits. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Nice.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to go see the movie again for the 10 minutes I missed. So I had to wait for a video to finally see what I missed.
And then it wasn't that much, was it?
And then, and then it was just like, it was just how they got to that point, basically. How he ended up on the ship alone. So, you know what, though? I'm curious to those listening. Did you care about this Margot Robbie Pirates movie? If so, let us know on social media, and we'll talk about it next week.
Better question. Did they even know about it?
Did you even know about it? Yeah. We talked about it on the show, so they knew about it.
Do you have a vague recollection of it?
Did you know about it? Did you care about it? And I like cheese. They're your options right there.
Speaking of cheese that we all love, the good thing that happened this week, did you guys see the trailer for John Wick Chapter 4?
How could you?
I did. I saw it before Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
That's right. I forgot they played that one. So are we excited, guys? Are we pumped?
Yeah, it looks nice and dumb, just like all the other ones. I don't care. It's fun. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
You go, you watch it, you get as close as you can. It's big, stupid action. Great. Why not?
Well, hey, some of the best action. I mean, like
Oh, yeah, it's
non-cut
superb.
fights. I mean, like, geez, yeah.
I could watch that movie without any sound on. They're like beautiful looking. They look amazing.
With an actor that actually cares and trained in like gun fu in order to make make it as realistic as possible. I mean, wow. If half the action characters put that much effort into their work, like we wouldn't be want for choice here. But this is going to be the best. This is going to make tons of money. It's having the same problem as like a lot of anime where, rising stakes, rising power levels, like you're getting close to this mythical high table that they've introduced into the mythos, so to speak. So, what does he do? Kill the high table. And that's how our world got rid of all of the assassins. It'll be interesting to see. I want to see the attack dogs again though,
Yeah. I mean, you guys are hitting the nail on the head too with it's dumb action in the sense of like it's not dumb where it's stupid, but it's exciting to watch, and they don't get bogged down into tiny details of a storyline. Like they slowly built this world as the movies went through. They didn't like present this world to you and now we're all trapped in it and have to figure a story inside of it. Like they built it as they went along. And
there was no point. What's that? What'd you say, Chris?
Like a 5-year blip or something like that they have to deal with forever. Oh my God.
Yeah,
where you have illegitimate children show up, or all of a sudden 6 years old. Oh wait, we'll talk about that later.
At no point. No, you're right though. They let this whole thing breathe. Like in the first movie, you'd expect a love interest. You'd expect a 5 to 10 minute info dump of like the mythos. Right. And an over explanation of everything. You got none of that. It was just action and him taking revenge on every single person who came near him because they killed his dog. And as it should be.
Right. Because it's not even like they killed his wife. It was the dog was left by his wife after she died. And it was like they killed the dog.
Yeah. Anybody that kills a dog, you got to teach. You got to use 6 degrees of separation as the description of the blast zone around them. That's
but as Randy and Brandon from Cult 45 would point out, that's like a white person thing. We get really upset when animals are hurt in movies, but care less when people get hurt.
They've got a good point there.
I'll be happy if they bring Halle Berry back. I don't know if they're going to. I saw Attack Dogs in that trailer, but I don't know. I didn't see Halle there. But otherwise, everything else, I mean, it should be interesting. Like there's a lot they're gonna have to explain why he didn't immediately kill Winston. But
that's the whole thing too, right? Like
don't explain anything. Just
like I don't even
shooting things and
I will say that with these movies, I don't even care. Right? Like give me a 2-second, like, here's what happened. Here's why I did what I did, off the cuff comment, and then move on and get to our first gunfight. Like,
why do you think it works so well in these movies? Like, I love them. But why do we like put? I mean, you know what I mean? We don't care. Like the story, like, doesn't matter at all. Like we put up because it's so stylish because they do it so well.
It's
just
stylized. It's a
like
throwback
of
to
craft?
I think it's a throwback to 70s and 80s action movies, and we don't get movies like that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's also not as bereft of a storyline as you're saying.
But it's not.
It does hint at like in that first one. It's like, wait, why does he have all that gold? And like, yeah, it's got all these like little things sprinkled around that you can imagine a larger world, but they don't necessarily.
Right. It's not bogged down in that. They're just little things that happen that, but it's not that important to the movie.
Yeah.
Right. They do reveal. I mean, they reveal things like it would be revealed to a person living through these things, not as, a forced info dump, but like there is a storyline. Like he's always got a motivation.
That's true.
Like, and a lot of these action movies the motivation is the storyline says you need to go here now and find this MacGuffin to open up this door, to find this MacGuffin to go after this guy. In here, his motivation is always, you done me wrong, you got to die. and the fun is us knowing, oh yeah, no, everybody who gets between him and that guy is going to die. And it's just the fun watching that happen.
I think these movies work for the same reason the original Star Wars trilogy works. Again, there's a lot going on in that world, but not everything is explained to you. You just kind of accept, there's space wizards using these laser swords,
that when I was a kid, that was my favorite thing about comic books,
Mhm.
because nobody had issue 1 of anything.
Right.
You went to the grocery store and it was whatever, 350 something, and you picked it up and you just had to keep up. And you're like, oh, look at, who's that guy? Why'd he show up? And, it got the wheels turning in your own imagination, or you would pick up pieces here and there as you went along. So maybe it scratches that same itch.
You just knew you liked Spider-Man and you went and saw the latest issue on the spinner rack and you bought it.
Well, I never really liked Spider-Man that much, but sorry, we're going to have to butt heads over that.
Oh, no.
Spider-Man's fine. I don't like Peter Parker very much. He's like Charlie Brown. It's like, oh my God, could you get your life together?
Chris, I don't know if this is going to work out.
You could say that, but how many girlfriends has he had?
I mean, that's true. I get it. He's a realistic character, but when I look at Peter Parker, I think yeah, that's me. Why would I want to watch my shit?
I was going to say he's the eternal tragic character. Peter Parker is.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Spider-Man is the escape from his miserable life. And that's why he works, because you're supposed to be able to picture your miserable life and then, if I had these powers, it'd be great and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Well, I will send you a radioactive spider for Christmas. How's that?
I do. I have a bunch of Spider-Man comics, though. I'm not gonna pretend I don't. All 2099 Spider-Mans. Just kidding.
No, Peter Parker. I get it. All right. Well, that is all the news I included this week, because I got a feeling we're about to get in depth.
Oh, just to let you go, March 24th, 2023 is when John Wick 4 comes
March
out.
24th. Yeah.
Yep.
I knew it was going to be that was the thing. The trailer came out, it's in front of movies, so it's coming out soon. It's not, 2025.
Don't you hate knowing about movies so far in advance now?
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. On one hand, you get a tiny, oh, that'll be cool. And then you're like, 2026? What are you talking about? I'm not going to live that long.
Especially with the Marvel movies.
Another one of the podcasts in the Geek World All Stars. Another shout out to Fans of Patrol, and that's what Tiff and Montego were saying with Black Adam. It was they announced that whatever it was 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, that's an especially rare case, but yes.
And it was just but that was the whole thing. They were they had all this time to make this movie. It was such a disappointment to them when they finally saw it, because it was they just thought it should have been better. And I mean, we talked about it last week. We liked it. It had its issues, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. But yeah, they really were down on it.
Yeah, but imagine if you only knew 3 months in advance it was coming out.
Exactly.
You'd be like, this is amazing.
Exactly. And I will say that is one of the things that Marvel has done so much better than DC. They don't really announce stuff until they know it's solidly being worked on and it's coming out. DC has announced stuff and it's it just falls through, or it takes 6 years to get out. Yeah. So, all right. So now on to our main topic. There was a little movie that came out this weekend, guys. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Before we get into it, here are some little facts about how it did. Opening weekend, domestically 180 million, international 150, so worldwide 330 million, which is a hit, in today's world.
Top November opening of all time. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I think so. Biggest November of all time.
Nice.
Rotten Tomatoes score. We have the tomato meter, which is the critic score, is 84%. The audience score is 95%. And we did a little poll over on Twitter. Waiting for it to load. I asked people what they thought of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I gave everyone 4 choices. Loved it. It was pretty good. Meh, I've seen better, and Wakanda for never. Because I've been criticized by the choices I've given on polls before.
They're a little, they skew a little to how you think about the movie.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
So let's see. Let's do these in order. In last place, it was pretty good. Got 15% of the vote. Meh, I've seen better. Got 20%. Wakanda for never got 17.9% of the vote. And the clear winner at 46.2% was I Loved It. We did have 2 comments on the post. Stafford Ziggy said, so great. And Tim Jones, okay, so he has to be mentioned in every show. We're contractually obligated. No.
Yes.
We are now.
Saw it Friday night. I have to see it again. The screen was really dark, so you couldn't see people very well in the night or underwater scenes. So I could see what I could see was fantastic. Sorry. To the guy who ordered his M&M and popcorn bags. Oh, I'm sorry. Crinkled his M&M and popcorn bags through the whole movie. Please starve. Great movie.
Sour grapes.
Available in finer newspapers all across the country.
Yep.
All right.
Particularly sour tonight, apparently.
Thanks for that, Tim. We always love hearing from you. Anyway,
people who crinkle their concessions bags, during a movie, you can go right to the same hell with people that
you know what
during.
I don't think my concessions have ever lasted to like when the movie starts.
I know, right?
Am I like a huge pig or what?
Well, no. You know what? I timed it. There was the showing I went to. There was a half an hour of previews. Full half hour
like
for a movie that's
minutes.
For a movie that's 2 hours 40 minutes long, and you added a half an hour on.
And it was funny too, because like we got there a little late, and I was like, "Well, there's previews," and like Karen knew I was seeing the movie for the podcast. She's like, "Just go. I'll bring the concessions in." She's like, "You just go sit and so you don't miss anything." And like I'm sitting there, and it's preview after preview, and I'm like, and she came in at the last preview, and I'm like, I feel bad. I could have helped you.
And you could have missed all the dumb previews. I don't mind the previews. I don't like the commercials. Oh man.
But
remember like the 90s when there were no like commercials. You just sat there and it was just blank. There's like soft orchestral music.
Yes.
when you showed up, it was like, oh, this is
sometimes they'd have trivia questions come across the screen.
Exactly. That was all it was. This is old man talk.
Yeah, and too, when I go see these movies, it's always the same previews as well. Like Ant-Man, John Wick, Fury of the Gods, and I've seen all of them a dozen times already.
I don't watch trailers, so this was the first time I had seen any of those trailers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we watch it for the show all the time. So. All right, let's go around the room and let's all, non-spoiler, give our initial reactions to the movie. And Chris, since you're new, you can go first.
Fair enough.
I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I think we're getting to the point, besides like the saturation of Marvel stuff, I think the biggest problem with this movie is, why is this the second Black Panther movie when the first one made $1 billion in 2018? Do you know what I'm saying?
Why did it take so long?
So if it wasn't attached to all these other Marvel franchises, we could have had 2 movies. Like there's already been 3 Spider-Man movies in the same amount of time.
There was there was 2-year plague there, kind of,
Well, I know, but you know what I'm saying.
There could have been at least one more Black Panther movie before this. Yeah.
Yes, we could have had, if everyone making the Black Panther movies were solely focused, like producers on down, were solely focused on making and maintaining a Black Panther franchise, this would not be the second one. We could have already had 2 with T'Challa. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a big, weird, what if, but I feel like some of these things get lost in all these big decisions that they make for the overall Marvel franchise.
I can't fault you for that. I agree.
And now there's all the TV shows and stuff too. You guys have talked about the fatigue of trying to keep up with everything. I don't know if this is a part of it.
Well, you got to remember though, they came out with Black Panther in 2018, right? Already during the filming of that, he was already feeling the effects. There are stories of him. Yeah, but when they were doing the him fighting in the water, they had warming tents for the actors, and there were reports of him. Some of the actors were kind of worried about him because he was sitting there for twice as long trying to get warmed up because he was already fighting.
Right.
So
he was on chemo, and that
right, and he
changes your body temperature.
And he died August 28th, 2020.
Yeah.
So that is not enough time between that and the first movie to make another movie.
This is true.
Especially
I'm just
since that
saying he
last
was
year,
introduced in Civil War the same as Spider-Man. Spider-Man's had 3 movies.
Oh yeah, no. If they
This
had
is
done
already this is only the second Black Panther movie. Do you know what I'm saying? Just like using that. And I know Spider-Man is a more popular character overall, but I mean,
and not only that, he was also in Infinity War and Endgame.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but at that point, he was already, when he was in that, he was already.
The only thing I could say, Chris, in somewhat defense, is that Marvel Studios is solely responsible for Black Panther, where Sony is making the Spider-Man movies.
So they're
not bogged down in all the other garbage that's going on.
And I'm not trying to assign blame or anything. I just know you were on the side of recast him because he is an important character, and then the other side is honor his legacy. And I'm like, what's the third? I'm like, is there like a third choice? Was there another choice? Could they have done more with the character when they had the actor? Do you know what I'm saying? That's all I was trying. That's the only point I was trying to make.
Yeah,
all right.
The timing's tricky because of all the stuff that went down. I mean,
it is.
All right, John.
But if they had stuck to their original winning strategy, they would have done a Black Panther movie first. Then he would have shown up in Civil War, right?
That's true too.
So,
yeah.
All right, John. So, what was your initial reaction coming out of the theater?
I really liked it. I mean, I wasn't totally a fan of the first one because to me that one felt really paint by numbers and it felt really fast. This one, you know me though, I like movies that take their time and let you feel the characters out and let you get invested in them and show you, let you live with the characters for a little bit before you get to the parts where you're supposed to care about what happens to them. And this, the only thing I could say is the movie could be cut down just a little bit, but I know that a lot of people have complained about how long it is and, why we have all this, intermission between all the action scenes like that. And I think our attention spans these days are getting really ridiculously short because movies like this that really take their time and have long series of shots of scenes where you're just getting to know the characters, no real action, only a little bit that moves the plot along, but enough enough meat to let you sink your teeth into it, like really understand a character's motivation and then put them in danger. I like that, and I feel like a lot of people are losing that. Like you couldn't sit through Gone with the Wind these days. No, kids wouldn't be able to sit through that these days because there isn't an explosion every 5 minutes. Like, isn't
it weird people stream like an entire season of a TV show in a weekend, like 8-10 hours, but then they complain about like a 2.5 hour movie? You're like, what is
exactly.
What's the disconnect here?
So I mean, I really liked it for what it did, taking the time to really, first off, honor Chadwick Boseman. I felt that they did a good job with that, and then letting that affect the characters. And there were some points where you're sitting there you're wondering if it's the character that's mourning the loss of King T'Challa or it's the actor mourning the loss of Chadwick Boseman. It's
definitely both. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that's good. Right. Like it was really, I really liked it. The only thing I could say is they might have been able to shave 5-10 minutes off it, but that's about it. I like the amount of time they spent with the characters, letting us get to know them and all that. So what about you, Dave?
Can I ask you, John, real quick before Dave?
Yeah.
Because I liked it too, but would you watch it again? Because it's like a bummer, you know what I mean? Which is fine. There's plenty of good movies and movies I would recommend to anyone that aren't, necessarily uplifting or happy, but a lot of the things I go into a Marvel movie for is that like larger than life, like spectacle. And I don't know if I'm going to revisit this one very much.
Well, I mean, they had no other choice but to make it like they have.
You can't. Right.
And I get it. Like I have a hard time with sad movies. You know, I had enough sadness in my life that, I mean, the reason why I watch so much isekai and anime is for the heroes triumphing over anything, because I've seen enough. I've seen enough evil in my life. I need something to make me feel like there's a chance for the good guys too. So and normally I would say no, I wouldn't be able to watch this movie again because I'm already sad enough in my life as it is. But it did. I mean, again, like they honored the character and the actor well enough, and it's an interesting enough story. Like they did a really good job with Namor, right? We're going to call him Namor, but they did a really good job with that, you know? And I think it's worth at least, I'd probably watch this one more time. Yeah. But you're right. It is a sad movie. And that's a problem for a lot of people these days, I think, is watching a sad movie like that. You know,
here comes one, Dave.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll give you my one-word review. It was craptastic. No, I'm glad you asked that question, Chris, because no, I couldn't ever watch this movie again. Like, and that's a big problem with it because I felt just like we talked about John Wick, and we love the movies because it's escapism and you're not bogged down with real world details, and it's just this crazy action movie. And Spider-Man, we also said that earlier, that you know, the fantasy is putting on the costume and having the powers and escaping the mundane real world. You gave me 2.5 hours of mourning someone. I didn't want that. Like give me mourning. Give me 5-10 minutes in the beginning of the movie mourning him, and then move on. Give me a story built off of that. Don't spend the entire movie talking about how much you mourn him.
Is there like a ratio? Like, what if it had been like half and half? I mean, I know it's like a weird question. Like, is that like if, you know, he was split almost down the middle, and then it was like, you know, 2 years later or something, and they just were kind of, I don't know. It's hard because JD always says stuff on this podcast that you have to judge a movie in the time in which it was created. Like you have to look at it through that lens.
Agreed.
And I think I agree with him. And I also think you have to look at what the movie was intending to do, like what it was trying to be. And sometimes you're just not on the same page. Like that's just not the move. Like the movie they were trying to make may have been successful, but that's not the movie you wanted to watch.
And this movie isn't just to make you sad. It's the movie was made to make with Shuri. It's showing her journey from mourning the loss of her brother and then the loss of her mother too.
So
within very short amount of time, trying to show her journey from getting from that to learning to live with it to moving on, you know? I mean, what's the last scene in this?
All right,
and we're getting to spoilers. Like, right?
I was about to say, before we get into spoilers,
I'm
going to say spoiler warning if you haven't seen the movie yet, which if you listen to this podcast, I'm pretty sure you've seen it already.
That'd be pretty weird.
But if you haven't seen it, you can stop here and come back later and listen. But here we go. Spoilers moving forward. But John, see, and it's not just the mourning. That's I wanted to finish my answer. It's not just the mourning of T'Challa. I have other issues with this movie too. And I'm going to start with Shuri. Like, she went from being one of my favorite characters in the first movie to I hated her in this.
She's the wrong choice, right?
I don't.
Shouldn't it be? Shouldn't it be Lupita's character? I'm sorry, I can't remember what her name is in the movie.
Nakia.
Yeah. Shouldn't it be Nakia? She's already has the training to be the Black Panther.
Well, yeah, but she wasn't one of the royal line. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The royal line has technically always been the ones that assume the mantle of the Black Panther.
No. My issue isn't what happened in Civil War that got the Black Panther involved and then was the catalyst for the first movie. His father died.
Right.
Shuri was not that upset in the first movie about the death of her father as she was a year later about the death of her brother still.
Well, you know,
and again,
but you're talking about like repeated trauma, right? She loses her father.
There's not even a mention of the loss of the father other than from
because this
the
is
mother.
6 years later though, right? This is what, 6 or 7 years later, Marvel.
No, it was a year after his death in the movie. The beginning scene is him dying, and then it's a year later.
Right. But she's lost him. She moves on. But
You're saying
now-
it's been
but-
6
but-
years since she lost her father.
Right. At this point, it's been 6 or 7 years, but then she loses her brother, who, like, you can expect to lose an elder, right?
But she didn't lose him. She didn't lose him from natural causes. He was killed. She should have been, if she was that upset of losing her brother, she should have been that upset losing her father. And she wasn't. You changed the character to fit the plot of the movie.
No, I don't think so, because people change, and after having the trauma
don't
of losing
change
your
that
father,
much.
it's much harder on you to lose somebody else, especially somebody you didn't expect to lose, like your brother. Especially because there was no way she could have saved her father. She was sitting right there trying to save her brother when he passed away, basically right in front of her. Right.
That's my first issue with the movie.
The way he died.
The way he died, like, they could have done one of two things. They could have just said cancer, because that's what he died from in real life. But no, that was a mysterious disease. Or they could have had a CGI scene and had him die saving someone, like
heroically.
Have him die a hero.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard
I don't know.
to judge whether that would be right or not,
I would rather him die.
I mean, I knew they weren't going to show him, because I think they came out after he died. They came out right away and they said, we're not going to recast him, and we're not going to use any kind of CGI to have him in anything.
And I think that was the wrong choice.
I feel like I remember them saying that. Yeah, but
I mean, because they made it a mysterious disease, because this is the country that saved Ross in the first movie.
Right, can cure just about anything.
Just can cure just about anything, but couldn't save the child. So now we have to make it a mysterious disease, because and also he's the Black Panther, where the herbs gives him increased health and stamina and resistance to poisons and everything. So it's like it had to be a mutant disease that could kill him. So then it should have wiped out half of Wakanda. So to me, it just didn't work. It was just like, come on, there could have been, just give him cancer, right?
It's,
no one could cure cancer.
I will say they were in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
Dealing with this.
Well, he had already, it was even worse, right, Kristen? Because he already had the script written, right?
Yeah.
The screenwriter, Ryan Coogler, they already had the script written, and
for the
then
second movie,
Boseman passed away. So yeah, it was like totally impossible. You have to balance the fact that you have to rewrite the entire script, lose your main character, and pay your respects to that actor while keeping the spirit of the story you were trying to tell.
It's kind of amazing that it exists, as of that they made the movie.
Yeah. But I fully disagree with you, Dave. Like Shuri, and imagine this from Letitia Wright's point of view. She goes from the plucky comedic sidekick,
right. That's why it doesn't work for me. She was the upbeat one in the first movie.
Well,
the happy one, and both that and Infinity War.
Right, but people in real life get tragic, have tragedy happen to them and cannot be plucky and happy-go-lucky through it, right?
I think,
speaking of someone who's gone through tragedy, it didn't change my personality that much.
Yeah, but this was repeated tragedy. I mean, by halfway through this, she lost her father. Okay, she dealt with that. Then she lost her brother, a disease that she couldn't cure. She blames herself for not being able to cure it.
I think you're defending something because you like the story. I don't.
No, but that was part of the plot. She blamed herself for not being able to save him. And she loses her mother.
There was none of her personality. That's the whole thing, right? And I think you answered the question. They had already had the script written. They had to rewrite it to work. So they kept a lot of their story ideas. So a lot of what they wrote for Chadwick and his version of Black Panther.
Yeah. Coogler said during the filming of the first Black Panther, he called Namor, I want to use that character.
Right. And so that's the whole thing is so Shuri was definitely rewritten to fit a story idea that was already there, instead of, because there was none of her there was a little bit. There's two scenes, and the only two scenes I liked in the movie where she was still funny.
But you might as well just be saying she didn't act the way you wanted her to, but that's not the circumstances that she was put in. The
same reason The Last Jedi sucks.
But you can't tell somebody to be happy. You can't force them to be happy.
Right. You can't tell Luke Skywalker to be happy, but everyone hates that movie because of the way they portrayed Luke in it.
but the right.
It's the same story. It's the same thing.
But
I don't like the
writing-
movie because of the way they portrayed her in the movie.
I think the story properly handled the way somebody would have to deal with repeated and very recent tragedy in their life. Losing 2 members of their family within 1 year is going to do very bad things to somebody, especially on top of all the other pressures she got. She couldn't save her brother. She's now the only surviving member of the royal family. She's got another more powerful nation gunning for her country that she has to protect now, and she has nobody to confide in. Like,
did you feel, John, and did you feel it was uneven at all? And I know you liked the movie, and I liked it too, but I did feel that I did feel there was a disconnect between the parts of the movie that were them dealing with this incalculable tragedy and then superhero stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like it was, I think they did a good job. I think they did as good as they could have, but I didn't know if you felt any of that as someone that liked the movie a lot.
very, very little, you know. In fact, on my side, I thought the parts where she started cracking jokes were the uneven parts, because, you know, like, you know, when you get into a funk like that, and I've been
to you, that was like the outlier of
because I've been through tragedy like that. I've been through tragedy like that, and you only start cracking jokes again when you start to heal a little bit, when you start to accept and start to move on. And she hadn't quite, like, the story, the way the story was written, she hadn't quite hit that yet, you know? So,
when did you tear up? I teared up during when the logo, when it was all Chadwick Boseman stuff.
Oh,
that got me pretty good.
What about Angela Bassett?
Yeah,
she should get a freaking Oscar.
I will say she was the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
She acted her ass off.
So then that was probably also something you didn't like about the movie then too.
What?
No, I enjoyed her performance.
I mean, but then killing her off.
Yeah. I felt like they made her such a great. She was a background character in Black Panther. Like, she was
for sure
the queen, but it was more. She was just there to support. Where at least the first half of this movie was her movie.
Yeah,
and it just felt like a waste to kill her off. That's one of those Marvel formula things. They killed her off to motivate Shuri Moore to go and get the herb.
She already,
and it was like, you know, it's just like killing off Coulson to get the Avengers to get together and fight Loki.
Yeah,
so
but I don't know if they did it way better than they did it in Avengers or whatever, but it did not feel like that to me at all, that she was just a gratuitous kill for motivation.
It is, but she did so well, and she had so much to do in the beginning of this movie that,
and it wasn't random.
It was kind of genuinely like shocking.
And Namor was gunning,
like, oh, you're not going to kill her too, and then they do, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, and Namor was gunning for her, right? Like, Namor was like, his motivation, like, it made it feel totally justified that he was going to murder one of the royal family.
All right, Dave, let's hear your problems with Namor.
Yeah.
Well, let's take the oldest Marvel character with the most established story and crap all over him. Okay, yeah. I mean Namor
okay. So
and I'm sorry, they've made him a villain now. There's no way to redeem him at this point. He's now a villain in the MCU, and fuck that.
That's fine. I like him as a villain.
I hate him as a villain.
Comics.
I like when he's.
But he's been a villain. He's
an anti-hero. He's never been a full-on villain. He was a full-on villain.
I'm sorry. In the comics, he's got like.
No, he's an anti-hero.
He's bipolar most of the time, right?
He has fits of rage.
He definitely has some villain moments. There's in like Hickman's Avengers run, like New Avengers, he's like sides with Thanos,
but he never he never full on went manic villain and started killing people like he did in this movie.
He destroyed whole planets, but yes.
Oh yeah, wait, in the Thanos, in that run. Yeah, I'll give you that. But I'm also a fan of the 80s, so
well, yes. Like the John Byrne, like the submarine.
Yeah, I also hate I'm sorry, I hate them tying his origin into vibranium. I thought that was so dumb. Like, He's half Atlantean. That's always been his origin. Like, why did you change it for this?
They're
It
not.
was
That
stupid.
has to
because
has to be a decision from like the top down.
No,
that has to be a Kevin Feige decision, right?
The rumor is that they're legally not allowed to use Atlantis in relation to Namor. I don't know. I don't know.
Atlantis.
But you can still, you still don't even. You can just say what the name of the city that they used in the movie, and just say that's a fill-in for Atlantis. But it could still be the same backstory. They were still mer people. He's half mer, half human. He mutated because of that, and that's why he's got the wings and the strength. Like,
I assume they were trying to separate themselves from Aquaman because DC got to it.
They got their movie out first. Yeah, but even though Aquaman is a copy of Namor in the comics.
Well, yeah, of course. But
I hated that they did that. I really do. I just I liked the character so much, and they changed him way too much in this movie. And it was just like, nah.
They did, but I don't know, he played him a lot like he is in the comics sometimes.
Sometimes. And I also
I liked the way it looked. I liked all that Mesoamerican stuff. I thought that looked cool.
Yep.
What also bugged me was he shows her around the city trying to make him a sympathetic character, but then he's still just a mustache twirling villain by the end. Like, I'm still going to get my revenge on the surface world. I'm still going to kill people.
No, it makes him calculating and quite deep.
And evil. It wasn't I learned my lesson.
Not evil. He's protecting his country.
So he's going to kill everyone else on the planet to protect his country. That's his plan. No, I'm sorry. They made him a full-on Doctor Doom level villain in this movie, and it's just no. Does
their portrayal of Namor in this scare you for their portrayal of Doctor Doom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because originally it was rumored that Doctor Doom was going to show up in an after-credit scene, but they nixed it, and I kind of feel like that's why they nixed it, because they made him that level of a villain already. Like, that doesn't make sense to bring Doctor Doom at this point.
I mean, they're similar characters. You know, they both run a country and all that kind of stuff. So, and
I can hear it now. I can hear the argument of the reason they tied it into Wakanda is because he's protecting the quote unquote the herb and their vibranium, but they don't need to do that. His motivation in the comics for why he hates the surface world works even better today than it did when they created the character, because we pollute the oceans, and that's why he's mad. Like, come on, that's a more powerful message than I don't want him stealing my vibranium. It was well,
it wasn't just stealing the vibranium, it was coming after and wiping them out because he's seen it before. They showed that in the movie, the conquistadors. Right? He's seen other countries come in and just wipe out an indigenous population.
Yeah, and look how powerful they made. Look how powerful they made the army in his army in this movie. They nearly wiped out Wakanda.
Right, but Wakanda, while incredibly powerful, isn't very large. What he's worried about is all of the other nations banding together and coming after him, and that's not something he can deal with very easily.
No, it's stupid.
Not something he could survive.
His motivation from the comics is better. I'm sorry, it's dumb.
It is.
Namor was crap in this movie, and it sucks because the actor, what's his name? Hold on.
Yeah, he did a really good job.
He did a great job.
I just want
Tinoch Hurata. He's an excellent actor, and I could see him playing a decent Namor, and he did play a decent Namor.
Is this the biggest departure for a character in the MCU so far? I mean, besides I'm not going to count the Mandarin because that turned out to not really be him, but
that is a good question. Is it the biggest departure from the comic origin?
I did not dislike it as much as you did.
Yeah, I was fine with it.
I thought it was, I could be weird. I thought it was interesting. Sometimes I want them to change stuff from the comics because I've already read all the comics and I don't know, show me something I haven't seen before. But that only works if it works. So I understand if you.
Well, another character in this movie that they've changed kind of from the movie, and I felt like I don't know why she was included. I just wait for her show. Was Riri Williams. It was she was a plot point and barely used in this movie. Why did you do that? It didn't work for me. And again, her origin in the comics is a very Batgirl origin. she's an Iron Man fanboy, and that's why she creates the suit, and she's a genius level like him, and that's like her
And she
connection
was
to him.
creating the suit like her first suit looked a lot like the first Iron Man suit that he made, right?
You mean the one from the cave, kind of?
Yeah.
Kinda. I mean, but she wasn't covered. Like, she was exposed in that suit.
She did seem a little shoprobably into this movie.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting her in there probably for
She has her own series coming at Disney Plus. Like, just
Armor Wars. They probably want her in there for Armor Wars.
right, but like, just give us her origin in the show. Like, that's what I've been waiting for. Like, and I felt like she was just shoehorned in, and yeah, I don't know. It was like we didn't need her. Like, great actress. Like, I look forward to the show, but we didn't need her in this movie.
Okay, so just a note from this is one of the sites I've read this, and just so you know, so it says, notably, there have also been rumors that Marvel Studios is not legally allowed to use Atlantis in a live-action setting with Namor, though no verifiable evidence of this claim is readily available. It's possible that such an idea is born out of misunderstanding regarding Marvel Studios' ability to use Namor in a movie at all, as the character's film rights were previously tangled between several studios, including Universal Pictures.
Yeah.
So it may.
I mean,
it may be that-
the concept of Atlantis, that's like public domain. It has to be. Like anybody can use
but
that.
in relation to him, who knows what Marvel did with selling.
Well,
this.
I mean, it's
when
also
Marvel sold the rights.
It's also why we haven't gotten a solo Hulk movie, because they're still tied up with Universal as well.
Yeah. So it's very what is it? One studio owns a lot of Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery, but other studios, but other studios still own certain characters or something like that are
well,
related.
the greatest example is
Venom, right?
No, don't think Spider-Man. The greatest example of weird rights is Quicksilver and Wanda.
Yeah.
Both Fox and Marvel own the rights to use them in movies. Marvel for the Avengers, and the other ones for the X-Men.
X-Men, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we got two versions of them, like in the same year almost?
Right.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's very possible that like maybe Universal has the rights to Namor in Atlantis.
So here's a question.
It could be.
Strictly
It could
Namor
be.
or something
Yeah.
like that. You know?
If JD was here, he would talk about how Marvel, they want you to watch everything. So the Riri Williams thing, Ironheart, that's it's a feature, not a flaw, because they're trying to get you to
get
watch
you
the
interested
other
in the
stuff,
show.
right?
Yeah.
My question is, are they doing that anymore? Because I feel like this whole phase has been about them trying to move away from that. Like, why? Like, for example, why did I watch Moon Knight?
Yes,
I liked Moon Knight, but there was nothing in there that connected to anything.
I will say that like Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, up until the end, right?
Right. So like the very last episode.
Yeah. And you know what? She-Hulk, even to an extent, you don't like.
She-Hulk had Daredevil, but you can't. Are they going to put She-Hulk in the Avengers, and then she saves the day by going and changing the movie script? Like, I really liked that show, but I mean, her power set would be unimaginable.
When she's in other comics, she doesn't break the fourth wall as much as she does in her own book. So.
Okay, that's fair, but you know what I mean? Like, it's expanding to the point where these things are making less and less sense as a whole.
Yes, well, that's the other thing, though. This movie is definitely setting up a bunch of stuff for the future.
Yes. Well, all of this stuff that we're talking about happened, you know?
Right.
I mean, we've introduced a whole bunch of new characters, a whole bunch of the Dark Avengers or whatever, or the Thunderbolts and the Young Avengers. So we've got all these characters running around now, and now they have this stable from which they can draw from for the main storylines that they're now starting to work on.
But
I just don't know if they're doing it as effective as they have in the past.
But Madam Hydra Val, or Louis, Elaine's character.
Julia.
Oh yeah, she's there.
As soon as she showed up, I'm like, guess what, guys? The Thunderbolts are going to try to destabilize Wakanda to get vibranium.
Well, that makes sense, though. I mean that tracks with reality. I mean, what do we do in the Middle East for oil, right?
I really feel that's going to be the plot of Thunderbolts.
I like her. She's great. Why was she in this? as we've seen her before, she's shown up for like, at the end of something to be kind of like mysterious and vaguely evil. In this, she's kind of in it, and she's got her like zingers and stuff, but she doesn't really like do anything. Would she have been more effective like showing up at the end, and you get that idea that she's
agreed.
But does that make sense?
But we've set up that she's the head of the CIA, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Right. That's big. Like, she's supposed to be moving the shadows. Here, we learn she's like one of the top dogs in the US government now. That's going to pose a really big problem if she's the one behind Thunderbolts and all this other stuff going on. Like,
you're going to find out that, Hydra was never completely destroyed. That she's,
that's she's Madam Hydra, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's where they're going with this. And the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers is going to be, her team. And also think about it too, right? Because like Bucky's in it and he has a tie to Wakanda.
Right.
And now she has a tie to Wakanda, and I don't know. We'll see. It's going to have to be a really good story for like why they all agreed to do this. The Thunderbolts.
They were tricked into it. They had bombs implanted at the base of their skull. Oh wait, that's a suicide.
Well, I saw an interesting thing today where they were saying like they're setting her up to be the Amanda Waller of the MCU, and I'm like, oh no.
Well, worse or
the new Nick Fury. She's younger than Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Yeah, but she's not anything like that. Like she's not going to make things better at all.
That's true.
Right. That's not her job.
She's an antagonist, pure and true. Dave, does your like childhood have like a tragic backstory which can only be shown in black and white because that's the universal sign of a crappy history with dead parents and orphanages and beatings? Because you just
I like happy movies. This is not a happy movie.
Well, no, it's not supposed to be.
And it crapped on things I love. So no, it was like I had a happy.
I don't think it crapped.
I think you're with your tragic childhood is why you liked this movie.
No, I just
okay.
Like,
I will say, as an outsider listening to the podcast, and this being the first time I've been on, I knew you were going to like it, John, and I knew you were not going to like it, Dave.
Ooh.
And you weren't expecting to like it.
No.
Is that fair to say?
I wanted to. I really did want to like it. I wanted to go in. When they had the scene at the beginning when he dies, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Like, I'm sold.
Kind of right.
But then, like, when I saw the path that they had her on, when she finally takes the herb and goes to the ancestral plane and meets Killmonger, I'm like, oh, yeah, this isn't what I wanted.
But that was the most brilliant part of it, though. Her seeing Killmonger. That makes complete sense because she by that point, she's lost her mother, her father, her brother. She's going through all this stuff. Of course, she's going to want revenge at that point. That's part of her character journey during this.
Right.
I also like
which is the complete opposite of her brother, and that's why I didn't like it. I liked T'Challa. I liked the story that they told. Like, think about it. In some ways, this is the same story as the first movie in a lot of ways.
Well,
just
not really.
In a darker tone. Yeah, it is.
No. It's kind of not.
Namor and Killmonger have very similar motivations.
They're not.
Namor wants to team up with Wakanda to take over the surface world before they come and get them, and Killmonger wants to use Wakanda's power to take over the world.
Only very slightly do the plots resemble themselves, or do the antagonists have anything in common? Not. But
yes, they are. They do. It's
scratch the surface.
She's the dark version of her brother. That's what the big difference between the two movies.
But she's not, because at the end she's gone through her journey and she realizes she can't kill him.
And that's my biggest problem with that movie is like she's so set to kill him. She saw Killmonger. She's on a revenge path. She sees her mom for a second. Show him who you are, and that's it. Okay, I'm not going to kill him.
Because most people, when they're dead set on killing somebody. Most human beings, when they get to the point where this is it, I'm going to kill this person, that's when their conscience kicks in.
How many times have you tried to kill someone?
Man, you haven't killed the same people I've killed, John, because let me tell you.
given that situation, and given the fact that she had enough time to get to know him and his people and his own motivation, it is at that point where you are faced with, I am going to take this life, that you are going to start thinking really hard about why and how you're going to take that life. That's when you're going to make a decision. That's the crux. That's the fulcrum. That's the inflection.
I agree.
Right
I liked the ending, and I liked her sitting and finally burning the clothes as a symbolic of moving on or trying to move past it or something like that. I appreciated that.
So
I'll side with you on this one.
In the first movie, when Chadwick and M'Baku fight for the throne, right?
Oh man, he was the best part of this movie, by the way.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. Well, him and Angela Bassett
walking in, like chewing, like just not caring.
In the first movie, when they fought, and did you ever think for a half a second that T'Challa was going to kill M'Baku? Right. Like that was never a thought that would pop in your head because he's the hero. Heroes don't kill. You thought she's going to kill Namor. Like you really thought. Like, and it's like I should never think my hero wants to kill.
But because
that's kind of why I liked it, because she earned that redemption a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I just feel like it was too quick of a redemption, in my opinion, for how dark they made her through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And then trusting him at the end, like, oh yeah, no, I'm just going to walk away and I'm never going to come here again. Like, come on.
There's no way you think that she's going to completely trust him. But the thing is that, again, yes, you can go all dark Avenger and go on a rampage
trying
to kill that person.
Movie.
But again, given her background, given her upbringing, right? At that point, that is when your hindbrain is going to kick in and you're going to say, do I really want to kill? When you've got a knife to that guy's throat, that's when you're going to say, all right, I'm ready to kill this guy. And wait a minute, this is not me. That's when people make real decisions of who they're going to be. It makes perfect sense.
I'm just afraid now to be alone in a room with you with a knife.
I decided not to kill you right away a long time ago.
All right. I will say the scene in the college with Riri, Shuri, and the general, I can't think of her name. Come on, John.
Okoye.
One of your favorite characters.
Nikia?
Yeah.
Okoye. Yeah.
Okoye, yeah.
Like that was one of my favorite moments in the movie. Like that felt real. And it was like, that's a conversation I know women have, like with the makeup, and like that was great, but there weren't enough moments like that in the movie, I feel.
But that's not this movie. This movie was about
crap.
No, the movie was about despair and learning to deal with tragedy. Like
and I would want to escape those feelings.
Did you dislike it that much? Because if I wouldn't be able to talk about it this much if I just like my brain doesn't work that way. Like I can't, I don't know. I just, I wouldn't be able to talk about it if I didn't like it, at least on some level. Or I used to work with, for example, this guy and I would always make fun of him. And at one point I'd be like, dude, do you hate me? I'm like, no, I like you. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't even talk to you. You understand?
Well, again, like Angela Bassett, great. M'Baku, perfect. Even the stuff with Everett Ross, like, I can't think of the actor's name. Martin Freeman. He's always good. Everything that I've seen of it. And you can't take it away from the other actors. The script they were given doesn't work for me. Like, yes, she was portraying anger and revenge and sadness really well, but I mean, I expect sadness, but the revenge, like, that just didn't work for me. I don't feel her character would be that revenge focused, that hard, that quick.
It would if you lost that many members of your family and you had all the pressures she had. Maybe the
just depends. Who's to know?
Maybe
hopefully
the story,
you never have to find out.
Yeah, maybe the story failed to impress upon you, Dave, like to bring you into,
No, I'm
feeling like maybe
I am not that person. I mean, that I lost my wife and then a few months later lost my mother-in-law. Like, they were obviously the two of the most important people in my life.
I get it.
And I did not go around wanting revenge on the world. Like,
well, that's because you can't get revenge on I mean, like there's nothing for you to get revenge on, right? But
I
in
do
this,
see your Black Panther suit hiding in the background of your.
yeah, right.
You're getting revenge on somebody.
But like I don't escape into those feelings. Like I don't let those feelings take me over at all. Like I never have been that person. So
But you didn't have a focus point, a focal point for your revenge, right? In this case, she had a focal point, Namor, right?
I don't know. I don't
Like
excuse the behavior.
he presented himself, killed her mother, made him her target. And she had all this rage built up already and despair and
She was already a rageful person before her mother was killed in this movie.
No, she was distraught, not rageful.
Plus, he gave her that dope friendship bracelet and then killed her mom. What's that about? Come on, dude.
Right. She wasn't rageful until he killed her mother. That's when she just,
it did.
The vision goes red and you just start acting out of your emotion. That's all, no forebrain. Hey, Kristen, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, you do. You do.
I don't know. I don't know if I could ever watch it again. Like I can go back and watch the first one over and over again. I don't think I could sit through this movie again.
I don't know. I'm sure I'll probably watch it with my wife because she really liked the first one, and I just went and watched this by myself like a creep. I love going to the theater by myself to watch a movie. It's the best. Do you guys like the picking your seat or not? Because I feel like two different ways about it. You buy your seat ahead of time, but then some idiot buys a seat right next to you, and then can you move? You can't move, right?
I like not having to rush because I already have a seat.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Then someone could be next to you. Luckily, no one was next. The seat next to me was empty. We were on the end. So she was the first seat. I was the second seat, and the third seat was empty. So
I went Sunday morning. It was a full theater, but everybody was cool. Everybody was there to see the movie. So that's always good.
I've seen people play musical chairs when they get there. But yeah, I mean, I like knowing where my seat's going to be, so I can go through and which showing so I can get the best seat. But usually the first few shows during the day, like the matinees, they're not very full where I am. But then again, like my theater here was showing it. I think there were like 18 showings during the day. Like,
Nice.
and at night it gets full.
I think,
but at I saw mine at 10:20 in the morning.
When
I love seeing movies that early, it's the best.
I was going to say when
you still have daylight when you come out.
Yeah,
when I go by myself, I do go to like the 10 o'clock matinee so that it's empty, it's daylight. I still have the whole day in front of me. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's old guy speak.
Welcome back to old man talk.
Oh, I hate though when you get to the theater, you've bought your tickets, you're assigned seat, and there's somebody in your seat.
I love it. I love having to go up and be like, "What are you doing?"
I mean, there are times
confrontational to a total stranger.
There are times when they look at you confused, and then they pull their ticket out and they realize like they're at the wrong end of the aisle. And then there are times where like they just get up and move. It's like you knew you were in the wrong seat.
It's usually a misunderstanding. Half the time I'm the one doing it, so whatever.
Yeah.
I should learn.
All right. I think we're not going to come to an agreement on this movie.
Nope.
I didn't even think that was. Is that an option? We can't stop until we've agreed.
Only by accident.
Let's put a pin in this one. Let's go around. Final thoughts, and we'll give a score 1 to 10 as we always do.
I'll go last.
All right, you can go last. John, you can go first.
I think for what this movie had to deal with, I mean, it is just a story of tragedy and somebody having to deal with that tragedy. It just happens to be set in the Marvel universe and dealing with actual real life tragedy along with, it's just, you're right. I may watch this one more time, bring a box of tissues and a lot of ice cream, but because it's, again, I don't like really sad stuff. I don't have the capacity to deal with that in my life. So, but I do admire a very well told story and a story that deals with these subjects in a very respectful manner. And also I like stories where they take the time to let the characters breathe so you can actually care about them when they actually do get in danger. You can actually feel for them. Give the, more than the Shyamalan one trait syndrome, right? This person likes hot dogs. Okay. Oh, he's dead. Oh. So anyway, yeah,
I like hot dogs.
I think people should watch this movie. It is not the standard Marvel, erector set of moviedom. It's I think it was very well done. I think they managed to pull it off, and that says something, because they did care. If I really feel that they cared about what happened with Chadwick Boseman, and they did pay their respects to him in the script. So I mean, I'm giving this an 8.5.
Oh, I thought you would give it higher.
I'd give it a 9. There's still some things that they could. It's a very long movie. They could have cleaned it up a bit, but
Oh, we didn't even touch on the son at the end,
No.
which I'm sorry, that also felt tacked on, and I think that's something to do with future plans. I think they made them do that.
I don't know. That to me,
I mean, I like the idea of giving her family again and having hope, but
to me, that felt like the director's touch. Like, yes, in the Marvel universe in Wakanda, they have this ancestral plane, but in the real world, that's the legacy, is like the people that you're going to leave behind.
Yeah.
And your family or your children or whoever you have. And so I think to me, that felt like that kind of touch. I don't know if they'll revisit it or not, or if that was, we're used to the post-credit scene meaning this is what's coming in the future, but it didn't really feel that way to me.
And
I could be wrong.
And there was history, like in the first movie, Nakia, she was a former member of the War Dogs, but you knew something was going on between her and T'Challa, right?
Yeah.
You knew something was going on. So it kind of makes it.
And he does have a son in the comics. So
Right.
Storm is his mother, not
right. So it kind of it doesn't, it's not out of the blue. Let's put it that way. It wasn't tacked on, This is just where they decided to put it. And it is like the final little push that Shuri probably needed to help her start to really heal,
Yeah.
She has another member of the royal family. She has somebody else, somebody she has to take care of, that help take care of her. So that's good. Sorry.
So final thoughts. Okay. Yeah. What?
Did Christy? I'm sorry.
He said he wanted to go
I'm
last.
going last.
All right, go.
He wants to go. I know. I normally go last.
Just chaos, screwing everything up.
I got it. Hold on. My mind. I need to make a point. What was the movie? It came on HBO Max. They turned it into a 2-parter. Jason Momoa, based on the book Dune. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Now, my points. I forgot to bring these up. Just like Dune, where there were so many action scenes at night and then underwater, there were too many scenes where you couldn't see what was going on in this movie. I do think it was too long. There were moments when I'm like, wait, this isn't over yet. Looking at my watch, like if I can feel the time in a movie, I'm not enjoying it. And unfortunately, I felt the time in this one.
I never got that.
That's fair.
So, and saying that, I've said my pieces about Namor and Shuri's characterization in this movie. So, I'm giving it a 5.
Whoa,
jeez.
Sorry. There are parts of it that are decent, but it's definitely not getting in my top 10 Marvel movies. So
it's harder all the time. All right.
Wow.
I don't know if I have any final thoughts. I think I said all the words that need to be said. I'm going to give it 7 friendship bracelets.
Very good.
You can tell you listen. Unlike John.
I completely forgot because I'm too busy trying to figure out how the hell you don't like this, but all right.
All right. Well, that is our review of Black Panther. Let us know in comments on social media what you thought of the movie. I know I'm going to get a lot of static on this, especially from Randy and Don and those guys. I know that I am. I don't care. All right. So,
to yourself.
let's wrap this up with any recommendations, or what did you learn on the podcast this week? And Chris, you can go first.
All right. I didn't learn anything. Just like all
Perfect.
good entertainment. I didn't learn a thing. I have two recommendations. First, I will recommend again the comic story that Kevin Conroy wrote and Jay Bone illustrated. It's called Finding Batman. It's available for free. He's like app, whatever that reading app is. It was in the DC Pride for 2022. And then second, I'll be that guy. And I'm going to recommend my own book.
Go for it.
Feel free.
It's called Night Brings Night. It's by me, Chris Lorenzen. That's Chris with a K. My last name is Lorenzen, Lorenzen. You can find it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, pretty much any bookstore. It's paperback. It's $15. There is an e-reader version that we had a little snag with, but should be up by the time this podcast goes up. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right.
John?
I've learned that Dave has no soul. And my recommendations, besides him getting a soul, is I would recommend, and that probably goes for some of the people. I don't know how many. I don't know what our demographics are these days. But if you haven't seen Batman the Animated Series, I would say go back and watch it.
Even if you have,
because it's been a while now, and I think it still holds up. And if you're not looking to get into an entire series, just watch Batman Mask of the Phantasm. That, at least that movie.
And Heart of Ice. And watch the episode Heart of Ice.
Yeah,
Heart of Ice.
If you're only going to watch one episode,
yeah.
Sometimes on my birthday, I make my wife watch like an episode or two of the animated series.
Or even like the dual, was it there's a two episode series called World's Finest, where or Feet of Clay was another of the best episodes. So any of those, just to get a feel for just how much of himself Kevin Conroy put into his voice acting for this character. That's it.
All right. Well, I will recommend that you go to superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast every week. Links to all our social media at the top of the page. And of course, comic book reviews by Chris.
That's me.
Yay!
All right.
The next one should be up before this podcast goes out, because I'll do that tonight. And I learned I do not want to be alone in a room with John and a knife, because,
I wouldn't need that.
He might not have his redemption.
He will physically overpower you.
Recommendations. I don't got anything this week.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to recommend stick around and listen to Kevin Conroy reminiscing about his friend from college, Robin Williams.
Yeah.
In the interview he did on our podcast right after this. So, on that note, as always, thanks for listening. And don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.
You're familiar with one of these?
Yeah.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. So, John and Dave here, Superhero Speak, Wizard World 2019 with Kevin Conroy.
Hey,
Yes.
how you doing?
Yeah, that Kevin Conroy. So, a quick question. When you were at Juilliard and you were rooming with Robin Williams and Kelsey Grammer, did you think this is where you'd end up?
Well, first of all, Robin was my roommate for 2 years. Kelsey and I never roomed together.
Really?
We were classmates.
Oh, all right.
So we studied together for 2 or 3 years. I don't remember how long, but we never actually lived together. But we were drinking buddies, and so we spent a lot of time together. But no, I had no idea this was going to happen. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. I had no idea this is where I was going to be. I thought I was going to be doing Shakespeare in regional theater somewhere, which is what I did for a while.
Right.
And then I ended up playing Batman, who was the most Shakespearean of all the superheroes when you think about it. He's like Orestes. He's Achilles. He's such an epic quality to him.
So you are, for a lot of people, the voice of Batman.
Yeah.
For anyone who's watched the animated series, who's played the video games, anyone will tell you, when you read the comics, you're the voice that people hear. You're the most well-known actor, I think, who's ever played the role, yet you've never worn the cowl.
Yeah.
Were you ever tempted to wear the cowl in the recording booth?
No, I didn't cross that line. The only time I ever did, actually, I did actually wear the costume once. I used to do a lot of volunteer work with foster kids who live in a facility in California, and they found out what my job was, and they thought it was so cool that Batman used to come on weekends and take them out to Disney World and stuff. So they were having a Halloween event, and they asked me to wear my work clothes. To Halloween. I said, "What do you mean my work clothes?" They said, the cape, the cowl. I said, "Those aren't my work clothes. Don't you get it? I'm the boys." So I went to a Hollywood costume shop, and I actually bought a costume.
Wow.
And I wore it to them, and they went crazy when I arrived in my car and got out of the car in that outfit. That's the only time I've worn it.
All right, so we don't have a lot of time with you. You've got a lot of people waiting to meet you. So the question we normally like to wrap up on, and this is something I definitely want to hear from you. How do you measure success?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. How do you measure success? I think by the mark you leave on the world after you're gone. That's how you measure success. You want to leave the world a better place.
Right.
And whether it's by a healthy child or a beautiful garden. And I get really moved on mornings like this morning where a woman came up and just started crying.
Really?
She wanted to hold me because she had such a horrible childhood, and the safest place she had was the Batman shows in the afternoons. That was her safe zone, and Batman was her protector. And she said, "You got me out of that house. You saved me." And of course I didn't.
Right.
But the character did. But my voice helped in that. And any compassion that I gave through my performance helped that child. And that just sends chills down my spine to think that you can affect a life that profoundly.
Right.
And I hear that a lot when I come to Comic-Cons. This is the only time I get to interact with the audience. You know, when you're a voice actor,
right,
you never get that interaction.
Yeah.
And the stories I hear of the difficult childhoods that a lot of people have had, and how Batman was the safe zone. It's amazing. So that, I think, is the most successful aspect of my career at this point.
I think that's the best answer we've ever heard on that question, too.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.